In a move that has sent shockwaves through the American higher education system, Harvard University finds itself locked in a high-stakes battle with the Trump administration. This confrontation lays bare the deep ideological divisions within the country, with the very principles of academic freedom and university autonomy hanging in the balance. At the heart of the conflict lies a fundamental disagreement over the role and responsibilities of elite institutions in a democratic society. The Trump administration, with its populist rhetoric and distrust of intellectual elites, views Harvard as a bastion of liberalism, out of touch with the values of everyday Americans. Harvard, for its part, sees itself as a guardian of free inquiry and critical thinking, fiercely protective of its independence from political interference. This clash of values has erupted into a full-blown crisis, with potentially far-reaching consequences for both Harvard and the future of higher education in the United States. The outcome of this showdown could redefine the relationship between the government and universities, with implications for academic freedom, institutional autonomy, and the very nature of American democracy. The world watches as this battle of principles unfolds, a stark reminder of the fragility of democratic institutions in an era of rising populism and political polarization. The stakes are incredibly high, not just for Harvard but for the entire higher education landscape. The outcome of this standoff could set a dangerous precedent, emboldening other administrations to exert greater control over universities and stifle dissenting voices. It is a battle for the soul of American academia, a fight to preserve the principles of intellectual freedom and critical thought that have long been the hallmarks of a thriving democracy. The Trump administration's demands on Harvard are far-reaching and strike at the core of the university's identity. One of the most contentious demands is the dismantling of diversity, equity, and inclusion programs, which the administration views as discriminatory and divisive. This demand has been met with fierce resistance from Harvard, which argues that DEI initiatives are crucial for fostering a diverse and inclusive campus community. The administration also insists on implementing a strictly merit-based hiring and admissions process, demanding access to sensitive data that Harvard argues would compromise student privacy and academic freedom. Harvard's president, Alan Garber, has publicly and unequivocally rejected these demands, framing the university's resistance as a matter of principle. In a strongly worded statement, Garber declared that Harvard would not surrender its independence or its constitutional rights, setting the stage for a protracted legal battle. Harvard's defiance has been bolstered by the American Association of University Professors, which has joined the legal fight, arguing that the Trump administration's actions constitute an unprecedented attack on academic freedom. The AAUP's involvement underscores the broader implications of this case, highlighting the potential chilling effect on free speech and intellectual inquiry at universities across the country. Harvard's refusal to comply with the administration's demands has drawn both praise and criticism. Supporters applaud the university's principled stand, viewing it as a courageous defense of academic freedom against political overreach. Critics, however, accuse Harvard of elitism and of being out of touch with the concerns of ordinary Americans. They argue that the university's resistance to transparency and accountability only serves to reinforce the perception of ivory tower detachment. To fully grasp the gravity of the situation, it's crucial to examine the political motivations underpinning the Trump administration's actions. This is not merely a disagreement about funding or data, it's a calculated strategy rooted in a deep-seated distrust of elite institutions. Trump and his allies have long targeted universities, painting them as bastions of liberalism and political correctness that are hostile to conservative viewpoints. This narrative resonates with Trump's base, who view higher education with suspicion and resentment. By challenging Harvard, a symbol of intellectual elitism, Trump taps into this populist anger, rallying his supporters against what they perceive as an out-of-touch establishment. This strategy serves Trump's political interests regardless of the outcome. If Harvard complies, it reinforces his image as a strong leader who can bend even the most powerful institutions to his will. If Harvard resists, as it has done, it fuels the narrative of a deep state working against him, further energizing his base. This cynical calculus underscores the dangerous politicization of higher education, where universities are used as pawns in a larger political game. This politically charged atmosphere makes it difficult to have a nuanced conversation about the legitimate concerns that some may have about higher education. While academic freedom is paramount, it is not a shield for intolerance or the suppression of diverse viewpoints. Universities must be open to constructive criticism and willing to address legitimate concerns about bias and lack of intellectual diversity. However, the Trump administration's approach, characterized by threats and intimidation, is not the way to foster a healthy dialogue. As the standoff between Harvard and the Trump administration drags on, the long-term consequences for academic freedom and university governance remain unclear. The outcome of this battle could have a ripple effect throughout higher education, shaping the relationship between universities and the government for years to come. If the Trump administration succeeds in imposing its will on Harvard, it could embolden other administrations to exert greater control over universities, potentially leading to a chilling effect on free speech and academic inquiry. The stakes are particularly high for students, who rely on universities to provide an environment where they can freely explore ideas, challenge assumptions, and develop their critical thinking skills. A climate of fear and censorship would stifle intellectual curiosity and undermine the very purpose of higher education. The broader implications of this showdown extend far beyond the ivy-covered walls of Harvard Yard. It is a stark reminder of the fragility of democratic institutions and the importance of safeguarding academic freedom and university autonomy.